Phoenix Systems, patented tools for the perfect brake job. The tool we are looking at today is considered by many to be the world's best clutch and brake bleeding tool, the V12 from Phoenix Systems. And this kit includes all the basic components you're going to need to bleed all the air bubbles out of your brake and clutch lines and give you the perfect pedal. Now, since this is a unique tool with some unique features, we're going to walk you through it. Now, the V12 DIY is a pump that directly handles your brake fluid. Now, that's a lot different than the typical vacuum pump that you might be familiar with. Now, you have a pressure outlet here, a vacuum inlet here, and this will allow you to do all types of bleeding: pressure, vacuum, and reverse bleeding. Now, when you squeeze the handles, pressure forces fluid out here. When you release the handle, vacuum sucks fluid in here. And this little dial here controls the stroke of the pump. Now, that explains the use of the V12. Now, how do you hook it to your brake system? That is what all these accessories are for. Let's take a look. You've got a bottle adapter that fits 29 bottle sizes and the draw tube that goes inside of it, a 15-inch long outlet hose with quick couplers attached to both ends, one 4-foot inlet hose, numerous fittings for connecting to bleeder screws and other hoses, a universal port adapter for bench and pressure bleeding, and 2 taper tip needles for hydraulic clutches. To put the V12 together, take the outlet hose and connect it to the front of the bleeder with just a simple twist, and then the inlet hose just slides onto the rear barb. Now wait, hold on a minute. Before you try to use this tool, you have got to prime it with new fluid to get all the air out of everything. So, take your bottle adapter and your draw tube and put them in the bottle. Okay, the first thing that we're going to look at is reverse bleeding. Now this is where you inject fluid at the caliper, and that forces all the air up the brake lines and out through the master cylinder. So the first thing that you want to do is give the handles just a little bit of squeeze until the fluid comes out, and then hook to your bleed screws. Now what this does is keeps you from accidentally injecting air into the caliper. Then with the bleed screw open, just squeeze the handle about 10 strokes for the first wheel and about 6 strokes for the remaining wheels. Now obviously you're going to need to have the lid off the master cylinder to do this, and since you're adding fluid to the system, you need to monitor the level in the master cylinder so you don't overflow it. Also, keep your strokes easy so you don't create a geyser in the master cylinder and make a mess. Once you're done, pull off the hose and let the caliper burp any air bubbles until there's just a solid stream of fluid coming out. Then close your bleed screw. Vacuum bleeding is next, and this technique involves pulling air bubbles down through the system and out the calipers. So it's just a matter of attaching the inlet tube to the bleed screw on the caliper, running the outlet tube into the fluid container, and then just squeezing the handles until no air bubbles come out. Bench bleeding involves bleeding a component that is not installed on a car, like a new master cylinder. Now to do that, you're going to need this universal port adapter, and it just screws onto the front of the bleeder in place of the outlet hose. Now just push the port adapter into the ports of the master cylinder inlet and squeeze the handle to bleed the air bubbles out. Now you can also reverse bleed the piece by going in the master cylinder outlets. Pressure bleeding is similar, but it's done on the vehicle, and it forces fluid in at the master cylinder and out through the caliper bleed screws. Remember, best results are usually obtained by using a combination of bleeding techniques, like pressure and reverse or reverse and vacuum. The V12 DIY is also great for bleeding hydraulic clutch systems that don't have a traditional bleed screw. You use the taper tip, stick it into the weep hole of the slave cylinder, and then just bleed as usual. Now keep in mind the V12 DIY is an entry-level bleeder. If you're going to be bleeding a lot of vehicles all the time, you may want to step up to a professional level, Max Pro. But either way, professional level or DIY, Phoenix Systems has got you covered. Phoenix Systems, patented tools for the perfect brake job.